Welcome to the Homeownership Podcast presented by Momentum Realty, located in Hanover, Massachusetts. This series covers all things real estate and the best practices for buying, selling, and owning properties. Now here's your host, Sean Maloney.
Welcome to episode 193, The Real Costs to Tree Removal. I'm your host, Sean Patrick Maloney. Thanks for joining me this week. Yesterday, I just had a huge amount of tree work done on my property, and it made me think to myself, most people are probably completely blind as to what to do and how to really plan it and what kind of costs are involved, what they should do, what they shouldn't do, expensive, cheap. So I figured today I'd just lay it all out because I used to own a tree company, had a huge amount of tree work done yesterday, and it made me think of a lot of variables that I knew to plan for that most people, they might not know about. So today, let's break it down. Let's get deep. So first off, comparing different costs. One of the things that's crazy about tree removal is oftentimes people just really try to shop it to be the least expensive. Some of the things I want to point out to you is understanding how the trees are going to leave the site. Are they going to doing what we call chop and flop, which is cutting at the top and letting it drop to the ground and creating imprints, damages, and then picking it up and wheelbarrowing it out, creating ruts and different wear outs on your grass? Or are they going to be picking it with a crane and taking it up and over the property with no damage and chipping it up in the front yard? Now, what is the cost of replacing the landscape, the damaged shrubs, losing other ornamental trees, having a crack in your walkway, or worse yet, having a problem with your septic system or something like that because you decided to go with the inexpensive version who drove a skid steer or a front end loader into your backyard to pick it up versus pulling it out with a crane? Now, cranes aren't for everybody. They're not for every job. They don't fit everywhere. They don't necessarily need to be used everywhere. But what I want you to understand of this is there's an application for each type of equipment, and probably understanding what they're going to send you and how they're going to get it in is as simple as talking with the estimator and asking them to lay out what would this job look like to you and what's it going to look like at the end, what's the end result. That way there we have understandings. Are they going to be broken fence posts? Are they going to be broken branches on bushes? Are they going to be dents in the lawn, or is it going to be to shavings? When they're finished, one of the important questions to know is what's going to go on with the wood. Now, oftentimes consumers when hiring tree companies decide to have this hoarder type of mentality where they're going to keep the wood. Even myself as someone who burns wood, this year I didn't keep the wood. And now you might say, that's funny, you burned the wood, you didn't keep the wood. Well, two things. Number one, I knew about the time, energy of processing it, and I've already bought my wood for this year. And another thing is I plan on taking my house down in the future. So again, knowing about your own variables, something like that, just understanding that, yes, I'm going to take the house down, and if I keep the wood, now I'm going to have wood that I have to move a bunch of different times. It also still split and burn. So certainly not functional. So I decided to get rid of the wood. But understanding when they take the wood, how long are they going to wait the wood in your yard? Like if they put it in your front yard on the grass, are they going to leave it there? Or is the company going to do a same day pickup, or they have a log truck right on hand, they're going to take them away? Understanding that is the difference again in some more landscape expenses, dents in the front yard from the heavy log pile, so on and so forth. Just things that can be very avoidable by hiring the right contractor and understanding. Now we get into the wood chips, right? The wood chips, a lot of people, again, they want to keep them. With wood chips, keep as many as you need, but realize they attract insects to your property. You don't end up spreading them. They're a lot of work, they're high volume, and it costs more money in the future if someone has to come back and get them. Certainly can keep them and put them in beds and things, but realize that big wood chips suck the nitrogen out of the ground and it leads to an infertile land. So they're pretty decent for things like putting in the woods and keeping the brush down and keeping the weeds from growing. But when it comes to your regular gardening, be gentle with the wood chips and make sure they're heavily ground. That way there you don't end up in a situation where your nitrogen is getting locked up in your giant wood chips. Instead, you're dealing with breakdown. So wood chips, again, difference between having leaves on, not having leaves on, they're messy. Having big sticks ground up, they're nice and even chips. Having small sticks, there are all sorts of chunks of wood. Knowing what you're keeping, that's an important part of the wood chip game. Next up, Alternamats, plywood, all these other things. A company who's diligent about what their work looks like is going to bring things like plywood, Alternamats, off-road mats, whatever they have, in order to make sure that they don't leave impressions on the ground, that they don't wreck your driveway, that they don't split your driveway. So one of the things I'm going to say to you next is always insured. Always, 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 always insured. Don't fall for cash discounts with no receipts. Don't fall for any of those types of things unless you, of course, know the people and you feel okay with that. But most of the time, then there's no evidence of it having happened. And if you have a broken light post, a snapped driveway, a rut in the front lawn, there's really no one to hold accountable. Or worst case scenario, a tree through your roof, which is probably the worst thing, to find out when you paid cash that it was an uninsured job and that there is no recourse, and that your homeowner's policy is also not going to be okay with it because of the fact that you went on a cash job. So be very careful about that. Be very wary about cash discounts. Tree companies usually don't offer the best discounts, the ones that are busy, because most of them, say the company Top Notch Tree, not to give them a plug, but they were excellent and they're an awesome company. I've worked with Jeff over there at Top Notch for years when I owned my own company. But Jeff over at Top Notch out of Kingston, he can't often offer a huge discount. But the reason being is he doesn't show up with a wheelbarrow, a rake, and a chainsaw. He shows up with a crane, a bucket truck, a log loader, an excavator. He shows up with a grinder that's self-propelled, dump trucks, chip trucks, knowledgeable guys, great equipment. And say yesterday they cleared my entire lot and they were out of here by no later than 1 o'clock. And it was a disappearing act for the trees because I have no damage. I have nothing left to deal with. And yes, did I pay a couple more dollars than some people might have for other alternative methods? Yes, but in the long run, when they get their property back to where I'm at, I'm much ahead of them. Now, last but not least, let's just talk real quick about the idea of getting it done. You want to consult a professional. You don't want to hold on trees till it's an insurance claim, till it's a problem. You want to always, I would say at minimum, when you buy a property and then every 5 years, have an arborist out, have them look at the trees and just keep an eye on everything. When it falls and hits your house, it's way more expensive than you think, usually uncovered when it comes to the insurance company. As a tree company owner, I can tell you the insurance you have will allow me to cut the tree off your house and throw it on the ground and not take it away. So right away, you've got the bill of taking away the brush of the trees. If your neighbor's tree falls from across the way, falls into your property, it's an act of God as long as it's natural. That's your problem. Homeowners insurance, again, isn't going to pay you to cart it away. So understanding your trees protects you. Understanding working with professionals is going to protect you. Don't go and think, oh my God, they're just going to tell me every time I need to take a tree down. Now, you get the wrong people, you might get that. But honestly, just go with the right people. They're going to help you do that, and they're going to help you understand what trees are going to go. And then just always understand your town and local laws. Don't just go cutting huge trees, especially if by water and things, without talking to departments like conservation. It's always important to just get people involved. I know a lot of people like to go around things like that, but let me tell you this. When you get caught, it costs 10 times as much and causes you a lot of problems. And oftentimes, when you ask them correctly and you're doing a project that makes sense, they're not going to beat you up about it. They're going to make you do the things that need to be done. But it's also important to make sure you protect the planet and make sure you take care of everything and you do things correctly. Because if we didn't, no trees would be anywhere left in lots of different locations, which would be a shame to the earth. So we do have to respect the earth as well. Guys, having tree removal done is a big decision. I decided to use Top Notch Tree out of Kingston, Massachusetts. They served me great. They've worked with me for years. I would highly recommend choosing a professional like Top Notch. Can't point only to them because I think there's a lot of great companies out there, but certainly was an excellent job. Thank you guys so much for listening today. I look forward to talking to you next week. If you haven't already done so, make sure to pound that subscribe button and have a great week.